Imagine carrying a stranger inside of you, a silent observer who knows your deepest fears, your most hidden desires, and the thoughts you dare not speak out loud. A presence that watches every decision you make, every impulse you suppress, every lie you tell yourself. This stranger isn't an enemy. It isn't even someone external. It is a reflection of you. It is the part of yourself that you refuse to acknowledge. This is your shadow. Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, introduced the concept of the shadow as the hidden side of the psyche, the part of us that holds everything we've been conditioned to reject or suppress. It's where we bury our anger, jealousy, guilt, shame, and fear. It's the part of us that society told us was too much, too dark, too unacceptable. But here's the truth. The shadow is not your enemy. It is a part of you, a part that refuses to be ignored. It shapes your thoughts, your emotions, your choices. It whispers in moments of doubt. It fuels self-sabotage, toxic relationships, and destructive habits. And the more you try to suppress it, the more power it has over you. Because what remains unconscious will always control you. Think of your mind like an iceberg. The part above the surface, the part you consciously identify with, is your ego, the version of yourself that you present to the world. But beneath the surface, hidden in the depths, lies your shadow. And while you may not see it, it is always there, shaping your reality in ways you don't fully understand. So why do we repress these aspects of ourselves? Why do we push them into the dark, pretending they don't exist? The answer lies in our earliest experiences. From the moment we are born, we begin learning what is acceptable and what is not. We are taught that certain emotions, joy, kindness, politeness, are rewarded while others, anger, defiance, sadness, are punished or dismissed. A child who cries too much may be told to stop being dramatic. A child who expresses anger may be labeled difficult or bad. A child who questions authority may be called disrespectful. And so we learn to hide these parts of ourselves, locking them away in the depths of our unconscious mind. Not because they are truly wrong, but because we fear rejection. But here's what no one tells you. What you repress does not disappear. It waits. These buried emotions don't just vanish. They surface in unexpected ways, through irrational fears, unexplained outbursts, patterns of self-destruction. Ever found yourself lashing out in anger, only to regret it moments later? Ever felt an overwhelming sense of guilt, even when you did nothing wrong? Ever sabotaged a relationship, a job, or an opportunity without knowing why? That is your shadow at work. It doesn't act with logic. It doesn't follow rules. It waits for moments of weakness, hijacking your emotions, pulling the strings in the background. And the more you ignore it, the stronger its grip becomes. You cannot outrun what lives inside you. But here's the good news. You don't have to be controlled by it. This is where shadow work comes in. Shadow work is the process of bringing your unconscious self into awareness, of turning toward the parts of you that you've spent a lifetime running from. It is not about destroying your shadow. It is about integrating it, understanding it, learning from it. It is about owning your darkness so that it no longer owns you. This work is not easy. It will challenge everything you believe about yourself. It will force you to confront the emotions and memories you have buried for years. But if you can endure the discomfort, if you can face yourself fully, the rewards are immeasurable. Because when you integrate your shadow, you unlock your true power. You stop reacting out of old wounds. You stop sabotaging your happiness. You stop being afraid of your own emotions. And for the first time, you become whole. So how do you begin? The first step in shadow work is awareness. You must start noticing the signs that your shadow is influencing you. And the truth is, it has been showing itself to you all along. Think about the moments in your life when your reactions felt bigger than they should have. When someone made a small comment and you felt an explosion of anger. When a minor setback left you feeling hopeless, like a failure. When jealousy crept in, even though you knew it was irrational. These are not just random emotions. They are messages. Your shadow speaks through triggers. When something deeply unsettles you, it is usually because it has awakened a part of you that you have long tried to suppress. So the next time you feel a surge of emotion, anger, fear, insecurity, pause. Do not dismiss it. Do not push it away. Ask yourself, what is this feeling trying to tell me? Most people spend their entire lives avoiding these questions. They distract themselves with work, entertainment, relationships, anything to avoid looking in the mirror. But avoiding your shadow does not make it disappear. It only makes it louder. The only way out is through. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This is why shadow work is essential. Without it, you are not in control of your life. Your shadow is. But when you bring light to the darkness, when you begin to see yourself fully, you reclaim your power. So I ask you this, what have you been running from? What part of yourself have you buried, hoping it would stay forgotten? And what would happen if, instead of running, you turned to face it? This is where your transformation begins. Because only when you embrace your shadow can you step into your full potential. And if you are ready to take that step, if you are ready to truly meet yourself for the first time, then stay with me. Because next we are going even deeper. We will uncover the hidden ways your shadow controls you. We will reveal the patterns that have kept you stuck. And most importantly, we will explore how to break free. The journey is not easy, but if you are willing to take it, it will change your life. Now that you understand the power of the shadow, let's go deeper. Let's uncover the hidden ways it controls you, shaping your life without you even realizing it. Because make no mistake, your shadow is already at work. It is the force behind the patterns you can't seem to break. It is the voice that whispers self-doubt when you're about to succeed. It is the invisible hand guiding your choices, pushing you toward behaviors that keep you trapped in cycles of pain, self-sabotage, and regret. And until you bring it to light, it will continue to control you. So let's expose it. Let's look at the clear signs that your shadow is running your life. The first sign is repeating destructive patterns. Have you ever noticed how the same problems keep showing up in your life? No matter how much you try to change, you keep attracting the same toxic relationships. You keep sabotaging your own success. You keep falling into the same emotional traps. It feels like fate is working against you. But the truth is, it's not fate, it's your shadow. Your unconscious mind seeks what is familiar, even if what's familiar is painful. If your shadow holds unhealed wounds from childhood, abandonment, rejection, neglect, it will recreate those same experiences in your adult life. Not because you want to suffer, but because your unconscious mind is trying to resolve unfinished business. But instead of resolving it, you just keep reliving it. The second sign that your shadow is in control is intense emotional triggers. Ever felt a reaction that was way stronger than the situation called for? Someone makes an offhand comment and you feel rage bubbling up inside you. You see someone succeed at something and jealousy claws at you. A small failure leaves you devastated, as if the world is crumbling around you. These emotions don't come from the present moment. They come from your past wounds, from parts of yourself that you've buried. And when something in the present awakens those buried emotions, your shadow takes over. That anger, it's not about what just happened. It's about every time you felt unheard as a child. That jealousy, it's not about them. It's about the parts of you that feel inadequate. That sadness, it's not about today. It's about years of unresolved pain. Your triggers are your shadow trying to get your attention, but most people ignore them. They blame the situation, the other person, or they distract themselves until the feeling passes. But what if you paid attention instead? What if the next time you felt triggered, you paused and asked, what is this emotion trying to tell me? Because every trigger is a doorway, and behind that doorway lies the truth about yourself. The third sign that your shadow is running the show is self-sabotage. This is one of the most insidious ways the unconscious mind works against you. Because on the surface, you want success, you want happiness, you want love. But deep down, your shadow holds old beliefs that tell you you don't deserve them. And so, you ruin things before they can ruin you. You procrastinate on the project that could change your life. You push away the people who genuinely care about you. You make reckless decisions just when things are starting to go well. And the worst part, you don't even realize you're doing it. It feels like bad luck, bad timing, or external obstacles. But it's not. It's your shadow keeping you in familiar pain. Because to your unconscious mind, pain is safer than the unknown. So you sabotage your own happiness just to stay in the comfort of your suffering. If any of this sounds familiar, don't ignore it, because these are not random experiences, they are patterns, and patterns come from somewhere. They come from your unhealed wounds, and the only way to break them is to bring them into the light. This is why shadow work is not just about self-reflection, it is about transformation. So now let's get practical. Let's talk about how you can begin shadow work today. The first tool you need is self-reflection. Most people go through life without questioning their own actions. They react, they follow patterns, they assume their emotions are always justified. But self-reflection forces you to ask, why did I react that way? What am I avoiding? Where have I been lying to myself? Because your shadow thrives in denial. And the moment you start questioning your own behavior, you take away its power. Journaling is one of the best ways to do this. Write without filtering yourself. Let the truth spill onto the page. Ask yourself the hard questions and don't be afraid of the answers. The second tool for shadow work is mirror work. This is one of the most powerful and confronting practices you can do. It's simple. Stand in front of a mirror. Look into your own eyes and speak to yourself. Not the self you present to the world, but the parts of you that you have rejected. Tell your shadow, I see you. I accept you. You are allowed to exist. Most people can't even hold their own gaze for more than a few seconds. Because when you look into your own eyes, you see the truth. You see your fears, your shame, your pain. And for the first time, you are forced to face them. This practice is not about self-love. It is about self-acceptance. Because only what is accepted can be healed. The third tool is facing your triggers instead of avoiding them. Every time you feel triggered, pause, don't react. Instead, investigate. Ask yourself, what is this moment bringing up for me? When was the first time I felt this way? Because every trigger is a map leading you back to an old wound. And if you follow that map, you will find the root of your pain. Most people never do this work. They spend their whole lives blaming external circumstances, never realizing that their suffering is coming from within. But those who do the work, those who face themselves fully, experience something most people never will. Freedom. Freedom from their past. Freedom from their old patterns. Freedom from the unconscious forces that have been controlling them for years. And that freedom is available to you if you are willing to do the work, if you are willing to go deeper, and if you are ready for that next step. Stay with me, because next we're taking this even further. We are going to explore the ultimate transformation that happens when you integrate your shadow. Because shadow work is not just about healing the past, it is about creating a new future. And in the final part of this journey, you will discover what happens when you embrace every part of yourself. Stay with me, because the real transformation is about to begin. We have uncovered the power of the shadow, exposed how it secretly controls you, and explored the first steps to reclaiming your mind. But now we must go deeper, because shadow work is not just about facing the past, it is about transforming your future. Most people go through life half awake, moving in cycles of self-sabotage, repeating the same toxic patterns, and wondering why things never change. But when you integrate your shadow, everything shifts. You begin to see reality differently. You break free from unconscious programming that has controlled you for years. And perhaps most importantly, you finally meet your true self. This is the part of the journey where the real transformation happens. Because shadow work is not just about healing wounds, it is about becoming who you were meant to be. So what happens when you embrace your shadow? You reclaim your personal power. Think about how much energy you have spent suppressing your emotions, hiding your true feelings, pretending to be someone you're not. All of that takes mental, emotional, and even physical energy. But when you accept your shadow, when you no longer fight against yourself, you reclaim that energy. Instead of being drained by shame, guilt, or fear, you redirect that power into your growth. And suddenly you feel stronger, clearer, unstoppable. You break free from destructive patterns. When your shadow is unconscious, it runs your life. It chooses your relationships, your habits, your behaviors. It makes you chase people who don't respect you. It keeps you stuck in cycles of failure. It sabotages your happiness whenever you get too close to it. But when you bring your shadow into the light, you see these patterns for what they are. And once you see them, they lose their power over you. Because now you have a choice. Do you keep repeating the same mistakes? Or do you break free? You stop fearing yourself. One of the greatest fears people carry is the fear of their own emotions. They avoid anger because they think it will consume them. They push down sadness because they think it will break them. They deny jealousy, guilt, and resentment because they don't want to admit they exist. But here's the truth. Your emotions cannot destroy you. It is only the avoidance of them that gives them power. When you face them head on, when you allow yourself to feel them fully, you realize that they are not monsters. They are just messages. They are telling you what needs to be healed. And when you stop fearing them, they no longer control you. You become whole. For most of your life, you have been conditioned to reject parts of yourself, to hide your flaws, to suppress your truth. But when you integrate your shadow, you stop living in fragments. You stop being a divided person. Instead of fighting against yourself, you begin working with yourself. Instead of self-rejection, you experience self-acceptance. And that changes everything, because when you accept yourself fully, you no longer need validation from others. You are no longer afraid of what people think. You are no longer controlled by shame or insecurity. You finally own yourself, and that is the greatest freedom there is. But here's the most important thing to understand. Shadow work is not a one-time process. It is not something you do for a month and then stop. It is a lifelong journey of self-awareness, growth, and transformation. Because the more you uncover, the more you evolve. And the more you evolve, the more deeply you understand yourself. So how do you continue this work beyond today? How do you keep integrating your shadow so that it no longer controls you? Here are 3 final steps that will keep you on this path of transformation. Step 1. Make shadow work a daily practice. Just like physical health requires daily habits, so does your mental and emotional health. Every day, take time to reflect. Write in your journal, notice your triggers, question your reactions. Ask yourself, what part of me am I still avoiding? The more you make this a habit, the more conscious you become. And the more conscious you become, the less power your unconscious mind has over you. Step 2. Learn to sit with discomfort. Most people run from uncomfortable emotions. They distract themselves with social media, work, relationships, anything to avoid feeling. But real transformation happens when you stop running, when you allow yourself to sit with your emotions without judgment. Instead of reacting, observe. Instead of suppressing, explore. Ask yourself, why is this feeling here? What is it trying to teach me? When you develop this ability, you become unshakable. No emotion, no trigger, no external event can throw you off balance, because you are no longer afraid of yourself. Step 3. Turn your shadow into your strength. Most people think of their shadow as something negative, but that is a mistake, because within your shadow lies your greatest potential. The anger you suppress, it holds the fire of your power. The fear you avoid, it shows you where you need to grow. The jealousy you deny, it reveals what you truly desire. Your shadow is not your weakness, it is your untapped strength. When you integrate it, you don't just heal, you evolve, you transform. You become something greater than you ever imagined. Because now you are no longer just a person controlled by unconscious wounds. You are a person who has faced themselves fully. And that is the rarest thing in the world. Because most people will never do this work. Most people will stay asleep, trapped in the same patterns, making the same mistakes, blaming everything but themselves. But you have a choice. You can wake up. You can break free. You can step into the version of yourself that you were always meant to become, but only if you are willing to do the work. So I ask you now, are you ready? Are you ready to go beyond who you've been? Are you ready to stop running and start facing yourself? Are you ready to take control of your life, not just on the surface, but at the deepest level? Because if you are, then your journey is just beginning. The path of shadow work is not easy, but those who walk it become unbreakable. They do not seek approval. They do not fear the unknown. They do not run from themselves. They own themselves. And once you do that, Nothing can stop you. This is your time. Your transformation is waiting. The only question is, will you take the first step?